Because I like my peace, first of all.
What if a woman brings you that?
There's no such thing as that.
You don't think there's no such thing as a woman bringing
There's
man
no
peace?
such thing as somebody living with you on a day-to-day basis is bringing peace. It's always going to be something, because you're going to have a bad day where I'll have a good day, and that's not going to be peaceful for me. I'm going to come home like, damn, baby, like I had a good... Something going to happen to where you going to hijack my emotions. So that's not peaceful. You feel me? Peace is peace. And peace is me by myself. I come home, I watch TV, I make my own food, I go to bed, I work out, I wake up at 5:30, I roll over in the bed, I lean this way, I fart, whatever I do, whatever, in my bed, that's peace. I'm cool, I can let loud snore, whatever. I ain't got nobody complaining about nothing.
I hear him 100%. Listen, peaceful Peel Pierce out there giving us the words of wisdom. I want to first validate what he just said, right? Women hijacking men's feelings. There are some women who will hijack your feelings. They will turn everything that you feel about something and turn it into their thing, right? And those kind of women are what we call manipulators, okay? Now, not every woman is a manipulator, and if you keep encountering manipulators, you need to work on you. But I want to validate what he just said. He's right. There are some women who do that, right? And there are some women who are not peaceful. There are some women who want to consistently have chaos, okay? There's actually attachment style for that, but we'll discuss that another time. So, but I want to make it very, very clear. The perspective he's giving is not one that's of a secure mindset. It is of somebody who's dealing with fear and insecurity. And what do I mean by this? It's an attachment issue. And if you don't know anything about attachments, let me give you a quick breakdown. John Bowlby is a British psychologist who was noticing how young children dealt with separation anxiety. He monitored how young kids dealt with their caregiver leaving them and then coming back into a room. And what he noticed is that as adults, we also develop emotional bonds in a particular way, right? What are these ways? The ways are we develop relationships either in four scopes: secure, anxious, dismissive avoidant, and fearful avoidant. I'm going to focus on dismissive avoidant only. Dismissive avoidant people grow up in households where they are emotionally neglected and taught how to be an individual. Why am I mentioning this? Because he mentioned something very powerful. What was his peace? His peace, for a lot of men, like in general, was him being by himself. He does not know any peace that can come through interaction with other people. Right? And he doesn't know peace that can come through with him dealing with a woman, right? Because he feels that women hijack emotions. How can they hijack your emotions? They're yours. No, how can a woman hijack emotions? When you are somebody who has good, solid boundaries, which is knowing where I begin and knowing where I end, knowing my wants, knowing my needs, when you're somebody who has an assertive presence and assertive, able to speak assertively, right? If I see that you're trying to hijack my emotions, which is you trying to switch it onto me and make yourself emotional, make everything about you, I'm going to tell you, I don't appreciate you turning this issue, which is about me, and turning it into you. I you know what I'm saying to you? I'm cool with the fact that you may have issues, but right now we're discussing me. When you can't do that and you are afraid of a woman trying to hijack your emotions, not because she's weak, I'm saying this, women need to learn this too. The reason why you're afraid of that is because you don't have good boundaries and you're not actually as assertive as you think you are. Now, you might be a great ball player, a great sportsman, you might be great at what you do, but when it comes to interpersonal relationships, there are a way to do certain things. And if you don't have very good boundaries and your only boundary is, I just avoid things, well, then you're not actually going to be successful in the area and the arena of relationships. Hence why you end up saying what Paul Pierce has said, which is women hijack emotions. No, they are. But why do you keep meeting the women that keep hijacking the emotions? Does every woman hijack emotions? Oh, listen, I've got some great relationships to talk about. I've been in relationships where they haven't hijacked the emotions. So why are they hijacking yours? Well, because you don't have any assertive bones in you when it comes to the relationship. You don't know how to be assertive. And I'm not talking about screaming. I'm not talking about shouting. I'm not talking about you using dominance by saying, listen, I can leave this relationship whenever I want to leave it. And there's other women I can go to. If you're saying those kind of things or having other women on the side and not arguing at all because you're conflict resistant, then you really aren't assertive. Assertive is the ability to be able to say how you feel, what your needs are, while simultaneously being also considerate of somebody else's feelings too. Right? So the avoidant attachment is what he's describing. Let's play a little bit more of the clip and I'll explain why this is more of the avoidant perspective, right? Let's play it again quickly.
What if a woman brings you that?
There's no such thing as that.
You don't think there's no such thing as a woman bringing
There's
man
no
peace?
such thing as somebody living with you on a day-to-day basis is bringing peace. It's always going to be something, because you're going to have a bad day where I'll have a good day, and that's not going to be peaceful for me.
Let's pause it right there. That's the first clue that this is an avoidant perspective. Why? He said, you're going to have a bad day and then it's going to impact me. Why would it impact you? See, what you don't realize is the avoidant attachment is impacted by other people's emotions. Why? Because when they were in their childhood phase, their emotional needs were neglected. The parent ignored them. They left them to their own devices. You had to figure out life quickly. You didn't have time to deal with emotions because emotions don't pay the bills. They don't make you eat. They don't put clothes on your back. And they certainly don't put a roof over your head. And they don't solve the issues that you had as a child. When you look at your childhood, you'll figure out that emotions were not a part of it. Your dad didn't speak about it. Your mom didn't speak about it. And if you did speak about emotions, you were embarrassed, you were shamed, and you were guilt tripped. So you don't deal with emotions. So guess what? When other people are doing emotional things, it feels like they're guilt tripping you. It feels like they're manipulating you. It feels like they're trying to overtake you with their particular emotions. Hence why he said that, if you're having a bad day, it's going to impact me. Why? He's afraid of enmeshment. Oh, he's afraid that your emotions are going to intrude on his mindset and it's going to be overwhelming for him. So the hijack word is a fearful response to the person having an emotional action or an emotional response to him. Okay. And so this is a measure of trying to keep emotional distance with the other person. So we know this happens because with the children that grew up in these households are dealing with parents who are emotionally unavailable as caregivers. Okay, so emotions are not comforting for them. Emotions are not a normal language for them. It's easier to withdraw and be indifferent than to actually be emotionally connected and available. And over time, they learn that emotions make you lose control rather than give you control. So now they look at emotions negatively. So if she's having a bad day, I don't want you near me. And it's very funny. There's a Bible story about this actually. King Xerxes says that nobody should come into the king's court. This is Esther in the Bible. No one should come into the king's court unless they're happy. And I used to also, I never deeped it until now. I was like, rah, that's probably like an avoidant attachment. Like being a king and having to rule over 129 provinces and rule over the whole of the areas that you ruled over. You might have an avoidant attachment. You need to have less emotional aspects when it comes to it. And he said, look, nobody enter my presence if they're not happy. I don't want anybody that's not happy. You know what I'm saying? You don't enter the king's court without you being happy. Right. And that's an example of the avoidant attachment and how it plays about. It plays a role where you can't enter the person's space unless you're matching or mirroring their particular energy. And because they're afraid that your energy will overtake them and they won't know how to tell you to get the frick away. That's why they don't want that aspect of you. Right. That's the fear. OK. All right. What they need to learn how to do is what we call co-regulate. So the Bible says, mourn with those who are mourning, be rejoiceful with those who are joyful. That's co-regulation. And that's in the Bible, baby. Listen. So what that means is when you come to me and you're feeling down, I can feel down with you for a moment, but I may return back to my normal place. That's a secure attachment. People that are secure are people who can give and receive and understand they have autonomy and they can be independent yet dependent. They've grown up in a household where they're allowed to have a full range of expression. So when they're in relationships, when you're down, they're not thinking, oh my God, you're down, you're going to impact my whole day. No, they're thinking you're down. So let me see what's going on with you. Let me empathize with you right now. Right? Let me see what's up with you. It's not going to affect my whole day in terms of me now being down, but I can actually understand that you're feeling that way. I can empathize. Number two, when he said, obviously, I don't have peace, right? Understanding that he said about the reasons why he doesn't have peace is because all the things he listed were things that were individualism. We'll get there. Let's play a little bit of clip. Hopefully it plays. Because, I need it to play. Oh, you don't want to play? Hold on now. You don't want to play. Hold on.
Peace. There's always going to be something because you're going to have a bad day where I'll have a good day and that's not going to be peaceful for me. I'm going to come home like, damn, baby, like I had a good... Something going to happen to where you going to hijack my emotions. So that's not peaceful. You feel me? Peace is peace. And peace is me by myself. I come home, I watch TV, I make my own food, I go to bed, I work out, I wake.
Now, he's not lying. There's an aspect of peace in here. But everything he mentioned about peace is everything to do with himself. So you don't have peace when you're with other people? You don't have peace when you are chilling with other people? You don't have peace when you're interacting with other people? You only have peace when you're alone? That's a problem. You should really look at that. That's an avoidant perspective because avoidants value the independence that they have. They value their own time. Why? Because what they learned was that they're the only one who can meet their needs. They don't believe other people can meet their needs. So they value hyper independence. Not independence, hyper independence. Okay? So they equate closeness with chaos. Did he not just do that? He said, if you come home, and he's all mentioning things with you, but when he's alone, he's at peace. Any kind of connection, right, can lead to can lead to a place where he's no longer in control, right? And so he's afraid of the expectation, the obligation, or the pain that may come from that interaction. Why? Because he's experienced that as a child, more than likely, right? And so their peace doesn't come from emotional attachment; it comes from detachment. When there's self-sufficiency and low interpersonal demands. The moment somebody starts demanding of him, which is the emotional aspect, when that person comes home with a bad energy or whatever that day or whatever, that now becomes a demand. It now becomes a withdrawal on him. And he's not ready to give that up because he's selfish. That's the honest truth. The reason why is because you grow, and it's selfish in the sense of the fact that as an adult, that's how you are. But as a child, you were unfortunately not at fault. Your parents or whoever was your caregiver probably neglected you emotionally. Right? So somebody else's emotions are now making you feel destabilized. And it's because you don't have the capacity to regulate yourself. So you are afraid that if someone else comes in, you have to regulate them as well. That's a co-regulation. You're not sure how to do that. Okay? Peace is an absence of others' emotions. It is a presence of internal grounding. Avoidance must learn to remain centered while connected. Okay. Number 3 is they struggle to deal with people's emotions and see them as a nuisance. As I said before, they minimize or dismiss other people's emotional needs because they were taught to suppress their own. So you don't want anyone to have those emotional aspects because you don't have you're not willing to deal with your own. And if I'm not dealing with mine, I don't want to deal with yours. Not realizing I don't have to deal with yours. In that particular essence, I'm not responsible for your emotions, but the dismissive avoidant believes that they're gonna have to be responsible for your emotional state. Not realize that's why he said hijack. It's like you're not going to be responsible for their emotional state. Can you aid? Can you co-regulate? Yes, but you're not responsible for their particular emotional state. Okay, so expressing feelings in their upbringing may have been met by stop crying, man up. We don't do emotions here, and that leads to you feeling like emotions are weak and that emotions are a burden. Okay, and so as an adult, you don't like drama and you don't like too much emotions because it feels like manipulation or it feels like hijacking. Right, your emotional suppression means that when you meet people who are not suppressed, it feels like they're being dramatic and over the top and be manipulative. Right, so we need to reframe emotions as data and not danger, as a message and not danger. Right, learning to listen without absorbing their emotional state is important. Okay, you need to understand that other people can have emotions, but you can have emotional boundaries. Okay, so avoidance oftentimes lack that emotional healthy boundaries, so they put up these massive walls instead of gates. Gates allow people to come in and go out. Read the book of boundaries. Allow people to go in and go out, right? But if you build in walls, it means people have to jump over. They have to work extra hard to get inside, to get closer to you. And that's what avoidance want. They want people to stay as far away as possible, so they can maintain their particular independence. This is what we do in coaching a lot of times. I expose this to the client. I go back into their childhood and I expose where those patterns have existed and where they began, so we can link it to your present behaviors. And then once you start making links, you can start changing things yourself. You start realizing, oh, I do this, I do that. Okay, so it's not just by default. I do that because of this. Once you have an awareness, we can start to begin to shift things. All right. So for avoidance, they've learned to stay connected while staying separate. And so they assume that everyone else must do the same thing. And because they're afraid of the emotional engulfment and they're afraid that they'll be totally shut down if you get too close with all your emotions by hijacking. Okay. They've not developed the tools to be able to say, I care about you, but I can't, accommodate you right now. Or by saying this, I'll give you an example. Listen to
Not
this.
gonna be peaceful for me. I'm gonna come home like, damn, baby, like I had a good. Something gonna happen to where you gonna hijack my emotions. So that's not.
Why is it that you're gonna hide? She's gonna hijack the emotions, right? So you're saying that your emotions of happiness are gonna disappear, and it's because you don't have emotional boundaries, right? You don't know how to be able to say, look, hey, what's going on with you, while still maintaining your own regulation of your emotions. You're actually saying you're dysregulated. You're saying by them showing their emotions, you are now dysregulated, which tells us you don't know how to regulate your emotions. Right? And you're feeling like you're responsible. Look what he said. They're going to hijack your feelings because you feel like you're responsible for fixing them or fixing their emotions or absorbing their emotions. Why? because you always had to absorb other people's emotions. When you were a child, you were forced to absorb other people's emotions whilst neglecting your very own. And so emotional boundaries allow for empathy for other people without having to sacrifice. But he's thinking about having to sacrifice, so he doesn't want to be He doesn't want to empathize. Do you see? Look, once you understand empathy, it allows you to not. And once you understand empathy and understand you don't need to sacrifice to empathize, you'll be better off. But the reality is, you don't even honor your own feelings. So you're going to struggle to not sacrifice, or not. You're going to struggle to not see things as sacrifice when you have to empathize with other people. It doesn't feel safe for you, right? My final thoughts on this is you can center and ground yourself so someone else's emotions don't affect yours, okay? Avoidance oftentimes disconnect from their own emotions to survive. They've learned to stay present with discomfort, okay? They've never learned how to stay present with discomfort. What does that mean? The moment that the world is turned upside down, the moment the world feels uncomfortable, and this is such a powerful thing because I'm even learning myself as I speak this out. We don't like it. It's uncomfortable.
I'm like, damn, baby, like I had a good something gonna happen to where you gonna hijack my emotions. So that's not peaceful. You feel me? Peace is peace. And peace is me by myself. I come home, I watch TV, I make my own food.
So as he said, listen, when you come home with your bad emotions, right, you're coming in with that chaos. You're coming in with discomfort. And your discomfort is going to make me now discomforting, right? I'm going to be disheveled. I'm going to be moved. Okay. All right. It's because you've never learned how to stay present in discomfort. There's a storm going on. How do you stay present? When Peter was walking across the water, it was only when he started to see the storm did his eyes take off Jesus and he began to sink. That's the avoidant. The avoidant feels like if they don't focus on themselves, they're gonna start to sink, right? And so this happens, and it's because they've relied on numbing, escaping, and withdrawing. And one of the numbing techniques is to watch TV, watch films, go on a workout sometimes, binge watch, binge eat, like something like that can end up becoming what we call numbing rather than actually self-soothing. And self-soothing would include you processing how you feel, working through it. So instead of dealing with the emotional stress, you do something else to distract you from the stress. Okay, so when you're confronted with somebody else's strong feelings, you're dysregulated. Your nervous system starts to work on you, and you should probably focus on breathing, focus on being more aware of your body, developing your emotional vocabulary, and really focus on just trying to calm your nervous system down. Take some few minutes to go out and come back in. If he gave himself 5-10 minutes, say, hey baby, look, I can see you're a little bit upset. Give me 5-10 minutes. Let me come back and be ready to deal with what you're bringing to the table. But instead, he feels like she's hijacking because he wasn't ready for that conversation. He saw her energy and he feels like he has to deal with it right now. Why? Because he doesn't have boundaries. If he had boundaries, he'll be able to say, hey, babe, I see that you're like this. Right now, I'm in a really good mood and I don't have the capacity to deal with you right now. Give me 10 minutes? Give me 10 minutes. Let me sort myself out and I'm going to come and we're going to talk. That would be good boundaries because you're able to assert what you need and where you begin and where you end. But he doesn't have that. And he doesn't realize he doesn't have that. He may think he has amazing boundaries. He may think that, he's better off alone. But the reality of the situation is he is better alone because he hasn't learned the skills. But he's doing himself a disservice because he's not learning the skills that would enable him to be in a healthy relationship. So if you're somebody who sees Paul Pierce and goes, yeah, I agree with him. Yeah, and I do the exact same things. More than likely, you probably got that avoidant spirit. And you need to reach out to me because we're going to be beginning to heal, transform, and to grow. And the link is down below in the description box for you guys, okay? So make sure you guys stay locked, stay loaded. Click on that bell button for notification of uploads. So appreciate you guys. Stay locked, so we'll see